Potential conflict of interest.
This is cutting it.
Councillor Stone, can you list the reason we got to the
Oh, I am employed by a competitor to
You're more than welcome to utilize my office as well.
Don't spill any coffee.
Is this slotted to be about half an hour?
Yes, we have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
See through the pretty easy now.
We decided to start you off easy, Judy, with us and only have 4 members of council present. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, there's a report before you today, and again, this is one that has taken a bit of time with circumstances being what they are, but this was an application for rezoning that came to you back in February, and you gave the first reading at that time. The application is for the Twin Island property on Radar Hill. The quarry operation that is there now has a zoning permission as an exception to the green zone that does allow the processing and storage of sand and gravel on the property. And as outlined in the report, a couple of years ago there was a 30-year license of occupation through the, it is Crown land, so the Crown has issued a license to allow the operation of the quarrying operation, and is also subject to an application by the leaseholder, has extended the provincial license to allow a number of other uses, and it's those uses that are the subject of this rezoning application. The ones that would involve the disposal of wood debris, including burning, grinding, and also the opportunity to have a green waste compost site on the property. So,
So has the province already spoken to that, or?
The province has approved the license of occupation, so as far as they're concerned, it is approved. However, the province has been very clear that in issuing that license, it's very important that all local and municipal laws and bylaws and regulations also be met. So not only would it be Bowen Island Municipality's local bylaws, it would also be the Metro Vancouver permits that would be required. And within Metro Vancouver, it's Metro that administers provincial regulations for burning and disposal of waste. So.
But our bylaw, this rezoning is a precursor to any of that happening.
Yes.
So we're first rather than the province.
It's a little tricky figuring out. It all kind of has to come together in it, and it can play out in different ways. But essentially, the province has said yes, under our license of occupation, we will allow those uses. However, it's also necessary for you to meet other local bylaws. Also, for anything to happen on this property that involves green waste composting, involves burning of wood debris, or involves even shipping and grinding and stockpiling. So stockpiling in order to be able to burn, it also needs Metro Vancouver to issue those permits. And in issuing those permits, Metro Vancouver wants to be sure that the local municipality is happy. So they will, when they receive a permit, they will send a referral letter to Bowen Island Municipality saying, does this comply with your zoning? Are you happy with it? So at this point in time, there were initial applications that were made to Metro Vancouver. They referred the initial permits, and Bowen Island Municipality got back to them and said, it doesn't comply with our zoning. Hence, there is this application to amend the zoning. And in addition to that, what we are suggesting is that there are a number of other studies that are required. And through the referral, and both your own planning advisory committee and a number of others who received referrals said, well, you know, it really isn't a complete application because all of the studies haven't been done. What the applicant has advised us is it costs a lot of money to do the studies. They have to go through and prove that burning is really the only, if they want to do burning of wood waste, that is the best and only option for them, or that it does make sense that all of the environmental work is done. And those consultant studies are quite pricey. So what the applicant has said is we would like to get an indication from the municipality as to whether you are predisposed to undertaking this rezoning application in the first place, so that we can be confident that if we're paying $18,000-$20,000 for consultant studies, that we have some indication that ultimately the rezoning will be approved.
You know, I'm worried about putting the cart before the horse. That's sort of the primary concern. The other thing I mean, and this is a little bit of a bigger picture. The other thing that concerns me is the fact that we are actually a rural municipality, and we're part of Metro Vancouver, which is by and large completely urban. And there's a few smaller places that are part of Metro Vancouver, but they're basically in the same boat as us, whether it's Anmore or trying to think of some of the other ones, but there's really small areas. But here we are on the west end of Greater Vancouver or Metro Vancouver, and you know, one of the things that we've done for years is burn waste. It's cheaper than trucking it off the island, and it seems to be, to me, and probably to everybody else in the island, as a way to go. At certain times of the year, burn the waste. But of course, burning waste with the wind blowing from west to east affects Metro Vancouver. And that's being, now it's the urban fighting the rural, even though we're all part of the same association, if you will. And that's the difficulty. And I see that as a difficulty in dealing with the bylaw. I mean, we have to be able to deal with it, but not step on Metro Vancouver's toes. And I think that's going to be really difficult, to be honest.
Can I respond?
Presumably the
Hold
study,
on a second.
this, well,
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very valid point. And the way that we are, the recommendations that we are making to you today is, first of all, to determine whether you feel that this is a suitable site for the range of uses that have been requested. And then if you make the decision that, yes, this is a suitable site, to put enough safeguards in place to keep Metro Vancouver, the province, and yourselves satisfied that it can be done in a manner that is safe and is the best way environmentally to go for both the municipality and Metro Vancouver. With regard to burning, and I've learned way more about wood waste in the past couple of weeks than I ever thought that I would know. Each time there is to be a burn, and it can only take place, as I'm sure you know, between October and April, there has to be a separate application each time, and the weather conditions are assessed, and it's determined at that point whether the environmental conditions are suitable and the wind's blowing the right way, and it will be issued and it can be canceled as well if things change. So I think that those things are in place. As well, Bowen Island Municipality is pretty special because I think Metro has basically said we're not going to allow it anywhere other than. So it is recognized that there are economic and environmental costs associated with having to haul the waste off the island. So from that perspective, I think that they're, in doing the studies to determine whether burning is going to be suitable at all, that those things are taken into account, and Bowen Island gets a bit of a break in that regard that other people don't get. The other little thing that we've done that I just want to mention is that we've been successful in having a conversation with the province to say that when this came to council before, you asked that we put a development permit, or that we deal with a development agreement. And given that this is Crown land, you can't do the normal kind of covenant on title that you could normally do when it is private land. So we've spoken to the province, and they've indicated that they are happy, subject to the agreement of the applicant, that we could do a development agreement between Bowen Island Municipality and the applicant that would be tied as an addendum to the provincial license of occupation. And that way, that gives the municipality the comfort with regard to not just the burning, but the grinding, the noise, the hours of operation, should there be a green waste facility, how that would operate. And so that could be tied to the agreement, and should the property change hands down the road, Bowen Island would be a party to renegotiating that agreement.
And one of the other things, it's on my mind, there was a letter written by a neighbor. I'm not sure if it's to the south or to the west exactly.
Southwest,
Southwest, thank you.
not mine.
And they're dead again against changing the land use plan. They own a large chunk of land, and they bought and they built a house on it, and maybe it wasn't, I'm not sure. But, they're dead again for noise, for fire, for all sorts of different reasons. And because they're right below, does the sound travel down or up? I never. So there's a number of different things that they're worried about, whether they're all legitimate. I mean, I don't know, and I don't profess to know. But it seems to me that we've got to take that into, we've got to think about that as well. Did you all get copies of the letter? It was on our website?
It was sent to us.
Yeah, okay. That's just another point. Sorry, Councillor?
I was just wanted to recognize, and beyond what Judy's already said, is that there are studies that still have to be undertaken, and I guess it's one of the Twin Islands, of course, is breaking ground here in this whole application, and of course there is another applicant who's also coming down the pipe as well. In essence, they're going to have to pay for a study which is going to become generic to some degree, but I guess that's the cost of being first in line. And if the results of the studies do end up by saying that no burning is not acceptable on Bowen Island, that's a risk. But as you say, it sounds as though Metro Vancouver is prepared to recognize that we are a different species of fish, and we should not be held to the same standards that municipal Metro Vancouver is. So.
Yeah, I think that's quite correct. I mean, if you do, I mean, the recommendation today is to move it forward to a public hearing, and you certainly will hear from people at that point if they have any concerns, and that's an opportunity to weigh those things. And I think just because if this zoning ultimately is approved, it doesn't guarantee that there will be burning. It guarantees that there's the opportunity to complete the studies to determine whether there is burning and grinding and the green waste compost if you think that the site is suitable. And I mean, part of policy in the official community plan is that it needs to be suitably screened and separated from adjacent residential properties, and I think you have to commit yourself to that as the case as well. It is, I think, over 500 meters from the closest. The complainants are, I think, about 800 meters away.
Long way away.
Councilor Morris?
The location of the complainants you can see on page 65. It's the two properties below Fairy Fen. I think this is the way to go. Judy's saying it's one of these chicken and egg situations where everything depends on everybody else, and we've got, I guess, in a way, the final say, because all these other ducks are gonna have to be in place before we give it fourth reading, and it's sort of gonna be coincidental. I was really pleased to see that the province would register some sort of a title document as part of the lease, because that does deal with the issue of the business being sold. And the issue with the time, the concerns, I think, about noise and that sort of thing, I think are addressed in the development agreement, because it's talking about 20 days per year, and only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. So I think that, that's, well, there's 52 weeks in a year, so it's not even one day every other week, or even less than that. And my only question, I guess, was you've used the word weekdays, and if a weekday is a statutory holiday, then that would enable it to happen on a statutory holiday, so you might want to change that wording. And then my other question is, which I still don't understand, but I'll go back a bit. With Metro having to approve the burns and the studies being done, then I'm looking at that as a big safety issue where we would want that to happen, not that it's more bureaucratic red tape, but it lets us know that these burns are being done in a safe manner. And I don't know how many of you actually went up to look at the site. But, there's some areas where it's very close to trees, other areas where piling a bunch of stuff up is not a problem at all. So I think it's good that we've got these other outside bodies looking at these things, because they'll look at the safety issues of the burning as well. We didn't talk about length of time of burns and number of days burning can happen. Will that be dealt with through the Metro Vancouver process? I'm talking about the development agreement.
Through the mayor, yes. As I understand it, there would probably be a maximum of 3 to 4 burns a year. You need to stockpile enough to burn, so it happens infrequently, and you need to get a license to stockpile to be able to stockpile enough material to then burn it. What we're suggesting in the development agreement is also that it not only be Metro Vancouver, but your own fire chief needs to be comfortable with the location of the stockpiling on the property, the locations the burns are taking place, so that you would need to issue your permit for fire as well as Metro Vancouver issuing a permit. So everybody needs to be happy, and I think controlling it this way, you're getting the safest possible.
And those permits would deal with things like having people on site during the burns and that kind of stuff. Okay, so my other question, which is still the one I don't understand, is all the stuff that you've given us, unless I've missed something in my reading, all talk about open burning. And yet the zoning thing talks about a controlled burn, and it's not a defined term anywhere that I can find. So what does that mean? And that's the big question I had the last time. But I'm quite happy for going forward with public hearing, but I think that's just a question as to what is a controlled burn. Does it just mean somebody's standing there watching it, or what?
You raise a very good point, and that's something I'll make sure.
Okay, and then just one little technical question. On page 42, we've got the bylaw, and we already read it the first time, so does it not need a line in here that says reread?
Yes, it will. We'll add that in after we do the executive.
And I apologize, somehow in putting the report together, the attachments got a little bit shuffled, so we're
I'm starting to build a foundation.
I think if we want to provide this service on Bowen Island, we're not going to find it anywhere that there isn't going to be some issue with wages. But I think it's important to provide this service, so I think we should take this first step and reread it the first time, the second time, and the public process take hold.
Kurt, you want to say something?
I'm happy to move this forward.
You would make a motion then?
Sure.
Second?
Second?
Should we be reading the motion just because of the video, or?
I would suggest yes. I can read the motion out. That bylaw number 315, 2012, cited as BIM land use bylaw number 57, 2002, amended bylaw number 315, 2012, be reread a first time or read a second time, and that staff be authorized to schedule a public hearing for land use bylaw number 57, 2002, amended bylaw number 315, 2012. And that prior to final adoption of this bylaw, the applicant be required, A, to enter into a development agreement with Bowen Island Municipality based on the requirements set out in Appendix A of this report, conditions of development agreement, and B, agree to include a development agreement based on the requirements set out in Appendix A as agreed to and signed by the applicant and by Bowen Island Municipality as a modification to the Crown Land Agreement of tenure on the property as granted by the province. We've had that moved and seconded.
I have one more question. Where's the other application that's going forward?
That will hopefully be coming to you at your next council meeting. It has not received a reading yet.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments? Or all those in favor? This is
I'll go get the other council members, and our Judy's on again about a road closure plan.